A lot of people get stuck on this idea of procrastination. What these people observe as procrastination can be described, from their point of view, as the observation of illogical behavior for no apparently logical reason. The difficulty that these people face is that they want to do something, but they don't actually want to do it, so they end up not doing it for the time being, which is termed as putting it off. It mostly manifests when presented with homework or a difficult situation to approach from their perspective. The issue, of course, is that people do not want to wait until the final moments when their procrastination magically disappears, or doesn't if that is the case, to do an assignment or task, but they want to do it when they think it makes sense to do it. And the big part of this issue is that even though they want to do something, they never actually want to do it when the situation that they want to perform in presents itself. This is the issue that people see as the procrastination problem. But in explaining how to solve procrastination, I will have to expand your own definition of the problem so that it actually encompasses both the true nature of the mechanisms involved and allows a solution to be both obvious and performable. So here I'm going to model how procrastination functions exactly. First, you have you. This symbol represents who you are, the conscious mind that either runs the show or makes the show run itself, the part of you that is responsible for making actions occur, the self. Now let's also assume that this black space this symbol is in represents the entirety of the mind. Now this symbol represents a belief. A belief is different than the self. This last symbol represents the motivations and drives of the pure biological facet of the mind. The part nature has integrated into the system by happenstance because it happened to allow for our survival hundreds of years ago. It essentially encourages us to believe in things that lead to actions that often are more functional from nature's perspective, and its effect is subtle but more pronounced in cases where the self has difficulty making actions on its own. Now let's say this mind has been presented with a homework assignment. If we look at what beliefs it has, one of them is the belief that they have to do the homework assignment. Another may be the belief that the best possible decision would be to do the homework assignment and turn it in on time. Now, what does the self do in this circumstance? What it does is it realizes it has these beliefs, and because the self wants to believe that they are true, it tries to shut out any action that involves not fulfilling those beliefs. Like if the self wants to do some drawing, for example, it uses its belief that they should do the homework to try and invalidate and essentially shut out its want to draw. In essence, by believing that they have to do the homework, it removes much of the self's own control and agency. But attempting to complete the homework in this way by shutting out everything else is analogous to locking yourself in a room with nothing else but the homework assignment and thinking that by doing that you'll end up with the homework done. However, by removing some of the self's own agency and by invalidating the validity of its own wants, other things start to take over because it can no longer regulate the mind's own environment. So of course the natural inclinations that encourage believing in things are going to be able to have more influence in this circumstance because the primary regulator has now decided to prevent itself from being able to regulate anything properly. So what happens next is it makes the mind believe that pure enjoyment and relaxation, often through games or recreation, is the most reasonable course of action right now. However, because now the mind believes that both fulfilling the homework assignment and recreation are the best possible things to achieve, the person has to compromise. And the compromise that always fulfills both goals is to have recreation now and to do the homework later. It's never do the homework now and have recreation later, because what this symbol wants is recreation now, but this belief just wants the homework done at some point at all. Anyways, the compromise it does works because logically, if you actually do the homework later, then you can satisfy both of these beliefs at the same time. This is the procrastination effect of putting things off. Of course, there's a point where the self has to come to terms with the fact that doing it later is no longer a reasonable thing to expect. And at that point, either the person tries to hide from their own beliefs by focusing on just their recreation, which is what is called continuing to procrastinate, or to just do the homework, which is where people get that magic drive to do the homework out of nowhere. So how do you overcome this dilemma? There are two ways. The first and most dangerous way is to form an even stronger belief about how you need to do the homework as soon as possible, and beliefs about how engaging in recreation now will make it so that you will not do your homework. This is the most horrible method because it relies more on the beliefs, which really is what is causing the issue in the first place. If anything, you solve procrastination with this method, but you cause yourself even more disastrous problems in the future by doing it this way, and is basically not worth it in any reasonable way at all. The other way is simply to try to not believe that you have to do your homework and to let yourself make the decision on its own. Not believing that you have to do your homework simply requires that you be honest with yourself, because in reality, you don't need to do anything. The idea also works off of the idea that you have to trust whatever decision you make to actually be the best one. So you have to risk the fact that you might not want to do your homework, but it really isn't a risk because it's far more risky to rely on a belief. In fact, it doesn't even matter if the belief is true or not, because simply by relying on it, you are failing to allow yourself to evaluate the situation through your own judgment and reason. But yes, the idea basically is to trust yourself to make the decision and not your beliefs.